Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Built for the Stage podcast. This is Joe Roscoe, founder and host of Built for the Stage, Broadway's #1 fitness platform. With clients in over 20 Broadway shows, clients in the West End in London, Australia, Tokyo, Disney, collegiate stages across the country, we're everywhere. We are your one-stop shop for all things theater and fitness. Check us out on builtforthestage.com. You can get your own Broadway fitness program at no cost. To check it out and to work with me on an interactive fitness app, builtforthestage.com. Special thanks to BPN, Broadway Podcast Network, for producing this episode. All right, let's get on to our guests. Special guests, as always, exciting times. We are in like the thick of not just like Tony season coming up in June, but also just like new musicals galore. They're just sprouting everywhere. Boop. Real Women Have Curves. What else did I just see that's coming up? Death Becomes Her was a little bit far away. Mincemeat just popped up a few months ago. What else am I missing? I've seen like 14 shows literally, but I'm blanking. But this show, Smash, is a smash, I hear. So I can't wait for our guest. I got to meet our guest, I think, through Bad Cinderella, which they appeared in on Broadway. They also were in Elf, and here they are in Smash, this epic like cult TV show turned Broadway show. Let's bring them on. Maybe the best name in the Broadway scene, Jay Savage. Hey, Jay.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going fabulous. Thanks for joining us from your dressing room.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
yeah, you're in the midst of what? Previews right now? Yeah, you're still like changing things, or what's going on?
We opened last week, so
Oh, you opened last week. That's right.
a
Wait,
week
what
from
what did you
yesterday.
you had rehearsal though? What I know a
Yeah,
put in
now we're in the
rehearsal.
midst of understudy rehearsal. So we
Got
think
it.
we
So it
have
was
a
a
lot
put
of
in.
time during previews to get some understudy rehearsal in. So everyone got their like full first round of principal put-ins yesterday, so we can check that off,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
nice. But yeah, kind of
I
crazy.
can't keep up with you all. Okay, so it's Floyd Collins is opening this week. So you guys, that's what it was. They're opening
Yes.
this week. You opened last. Okay, got it. I can't keep it up. I can't keep it up.
There's so many exciting things opening.
I'm telling you, this Tony season is going to be wild.
Yeah.
I was briefly mentioning to you before we hit record that I'll be seeing your show the week Tony, not just like the week of, but like Tony's weekend. I think that Saturday, like the day before the Tonys, I'll be seeing your show. So
How
I'm going to
exciting.
bring all the good juju, like as many good vibes to you as possible. They'll be coming out of my pores. I'll be so positive for y'all.
We'll take them. We'll take them.
Okay, so what's the process been like for you? Have you been with the show since like its inception, or did you hop on just for the Broadway cast? What's your history with the show?
For sure. I am new to the show with the Broadway production. I did not do the workshop or any of the readings. I'm very fresh to it, which has been really fun because there's some people who have been carried over from the workshop in the ensemble, and then a lot of the principals have been with it from the beginning. So it's exciting to join and see them create like, oh, we did this in the workshop, and then this really worked, and this wasn't working, so let's try this and all that jazz. So it's exciting to be able to join so fresh. Before we started, we had 2 weeks of pre-pro with Josh Burgos. Burgase is actually how it's pronounced. I found out. Oh, maybe it's not. Maybe I said it wrong. Anyways, and
we'll do some research and then snip, snaps, all of it.
Yeah. With Josh, and it was fun to end. What's really fun is Katie Weber, who's in our ensemble, and Jenny LaRoche, who's our associate, and Josh, who did the choreography for the TV show. Jenny was on the TV show, and Katie Weber was on the TV show. So it's really fun, and she's kind of been with it then through the workshops and all the readings. And it's so fun to hear them talk about, well, on the TV show we did this because of this. But now we're doing this because of this, and then like seeing what survived and what's changed. It's been a really fun process, and with like Susan Stroman and like Brooks and Robin, and like it's just like everybody's at the top of their game. So it's so fun to get to come in and watch masters at work. It's been a joy.
Yeah. So let's rewind. Can little Jay Savage imagine that they would be in a Broadway production like this? Where are you from? When does theater come into play? Let's start there. Where is the origin story from?
For sure. Well, I think in the origin story, I think it's important to mention that my last name is real. I didn't come up with it as a stage name. I get so nervous that people are like, wow, he called himself Savage. What a dick. No, it's real. I promise. I won't go into the etymology of it, but it's very real. But, you know, ever since I was a kid, I loved to sing and I loved to perform and I loved to be the center of attention. And so I remember I was doing like a choir class in 3rd grade and she was kind of like, you want a solo? And I was like, hell yeah, I do. And that was just kind of the beginning for me. And we moved to St. Louis and my mom was like, oh, there's this children's arts program. Do you want to audition for Annie? And I was like, sure, why not? And I remember I went in and I sang, give my regards to Broadway. And then they asked me, they said,
of course you did. Of course you did. Of course.
And they said, do you have anything else? And at the time I was like, what? I didn't know what the fuck that meant.
Right.
Can I swear?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yes.
And so I didn't have anything else because I was 6. And so I was like, I could sing in my own little corner. So I sang in my own little corner a cappella and they laughed at me, but in a good way, I guess. And then I got the bug, you know, and from then on, I was like, this is what I want to do. And I didn't realize that you could go to college for this until like I was like a sophomore in high school and like people were auditioning for colleges. And I was like, oh, great. So I went to Penn State, which I loved. I loved every second of it. And then and Julio, who you know, Julio and I, my senior year, were like the 2 leads in the spring musical. And then he and I made our Broadway debuts together in Bad Cinderella, which was really special.
Yeah.
So if you asked little me if I would be here right now, I probably would be like, well, I hope so. But also like wouldn't have truly believed that I would be here right now. Smash in my 3rd Broadway show, which it's just so crazy. You know, for Smash the TV show, I was too scared to watch it as a kid. I was so scared of like seeing what the industry might be like because I was too scared to do this. And like that in Glee, I couldn't watch it because I was afraid that I would like realize that I wasn't good enough. And so I just like put an embargo on it. And I'm so glad I waited because now to watch Smash as I'm in Smash, it means so much more to me because I can decipher like what's exaggerated and what's real.
I was just gonna say if you did watch it years ago, you wouldn't have gotten the proper perception of what it really was like because some of the ways they portrayed it was ludicrous. It was hilarious. But yes, for you to watch it now, I'm sure you had a huge LOL moment. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm like, oh, this is not real. Or being like, oh, that's real. Like, I know where they are. I know what they're doing. I know who that is. I've met that person. Or like, or they start rehearsing a number and I'm like, oh, we literally did that in rehearsal today. That's so funny and silly. And, you know, and then now I'm finally in season 2 and I'm like, every day I go backstage and say, well, Krista, you did this today in season 2. And she's like, I have no recollection of that. It's just so
what's it like? You were mentioning these huge epic names of Broadway. What's it like to be in, I know that you're open now, but like the rehearsal process, what was it like to be in the room, creating this piece with names like that in the room?
It's pretty surreal. It's one of those moments where you walk in every day and, you know, you wake up and you're like, oh my God, here we go, next day. And you take a moment to be like, look at where you are and look at who you're working with and look at what you're getting to do. You know, it's just so surreal to be like, this is where you want it to be. You're in the room where it happens. Sorry, I'm right next door to Hamilton. Yeah. And you're getting to be a part of it and you get to watch them create and you get to create yourself. You know, you're creating your own ensemble track. You're building it as it happens. And it's surreal, especially like with Stro, Like, I remember studying Stroh in college, and now I get to see her work and like at, and the brilliance that she is. It's like, oh wow, like this is the same woman that did all these shows that I was obsessed with growing up. And you can see her make decisions and then see her like make a choice and be like, let's try this. And then be like, nope, that's not going to work. I tried it. It didn't work. Let's change it, you know? And the joy that she brings to the room is so encouraging, because I think sometimes, especially like when you're a scared little college boy and like afraid of your own shadow, you're afraid to like enter the business and scared that there's going to be a Derek Wells of Smash when you walk into a room. And to be comforted by like, no, these are people who love what they do and they trust in themselves and their ability. It makes you want to trust yourself, which is so important and so special. And something I've been working on.
You talked about getting to create moments in your own ensemble track. Are there any moments, if we were to be watching the show and keeping an eye out on you while you're in your track, any moments that you just love or are your favorites? And then how did you come about creating those moments?
I am so glad you asked. There are two specific moments in the show that are my favorites, and they are as follows. There is a scene, and there's this like Sardi's type restaurant that they're always having production meetings at, called the 11 o'clock spot. And there's a scene where there's a waiter, and I was reading the script and I was like, I have to do this bit. I have to do this bit. And I like kept looking at the tracking, being like, okay, it says I'm the waiter and it hasn't changed yet. So like, I hope this is me. And the bit is at the end of the scene, the producer character, Anita, goes, waiter, actor. And then he whip around, headshot in hand. And then I run across the stage, and then we ride the pallet off. And I just think it is so ridiculous and so funny. And so when Stroh was like, okay, so we were doing the scene that happens after it. She goes, so you're actually going to be entering late in this scene because you're the waiter in the prior scene. I was like, yes! And she was like, I was like, I'm so excited. I really wanted to be the waiter. And she was like, okay. And she was like, why is he so excited? Is he kidding? Was he being real? And then we got to run the scene, and it was just hilarious. And I was like, see, I told you I really wanted to do this. And the best part is I'm holding my own headshot, which is so funny to be holding my own headshot on a Broadway stage. It's just hilarious. And then at the very end of the show, without wanting to ruin what happens, there's a moment where there's a reveal into a dream sequence, and it's me, which I think is so funny. I'm not the dream sequence, but the dream sequence is happening, and then I get to be a part of it. And I don't want to ruin it. You'll see it.
Okay,
but that's a part that I really love in the finale.
Okay, very good. All right, so without ruining this as well, we all understand from the marketing of the show that it's not just a copy paste of the TV show. So without giving things away, is there anything that you could be like, hey, you need to come see this musical because it's not just what you watched on TV, it's XYZ?
Absolutely. Well, first off, it's a comedy, which already is such a big tone shift from the show. The show was melodrama, and there was a lot of stuff to laugh at and enjoy in the show. In the TV show, I loved the first season. I am still watching the second season, so no comment yet. But what I think is to put, and that was back when TV shows had like 20-hour episodes. You don't get that anymore. There's so much content that there's no way that you could successfully put the TV show on stage. There's no way.
Right.
And it's, and I think what our writers did was really smart, is be like, so let's not even try. Let's take what we love from the show, keep that, and then make something totally new that's even truer to what we're doing. And what is truer to Broadway than a musical comedy? And so what I think is safe to say is that in this version, Ivy Lynn is a big Broadway star. She's like 3 million followers. Like, she is like the pinnacle of Broadway. Everybody loves Ivy Lynn. When Ivy Lynn's doing a show, you know it's going to be a hit. She's beloved in the community. She is adored. She's kind and wonderful and talented and a dream. Karen is her understudy and has been her go-to understudy. They're best friends, have been for years. This is her 4th time understudying Ivy. And so they're kind of, in a way, a package deal, which is really fun. And so you get to see their relationship. You get to see Karen step in for Ivy, and you get to see like this relationship of women supporting women, which is so awesome. Which sometimes I think it's easy to like go into the trope of like women tearing each other down. And so, which is kind of what Smash does, is these 2 women battling. The TV show, not the musical. And then I think what's clear is that Ivy then ends up picking up a method acting book that was taught by the teacher who taught Marilyn. And so she seeks out the acting teacher and then becomes very involved with method acting.
Oh, okay.
And starts to embody Marilyn in more ways than one. And
Got it.
thus chaos ensues. And I think what's so fun about the musical is that it truly shows how hard it is to make a musical. I mean, anyone who's ever been in a process of a musical knows that there's always like some hitch that arrives and something that tries to upset or something that's just going to make it harder than it needs to be. And then we're trying to deal with these problems and things keep steamrolling and we all just want to make a good show, but life just keeps getting in the way. And so as you can imagine, chaos ensues from there. But it's just a fun time. You get all the music you want, all the choreography you want, you get to see a look behind the scenes, which I think is so fun.
So you brought up real chaos that tries to negate the progress of a show. What real progress was negated in the midst of your actual, mounting of this show? Was there any tech or anything that was like, wait a second, this isn't going the way we planned it to be?
So one thing the show is so meta. It's meta and it's so fun in that sense. And what is so meta is at our first preview, an actress got sick and had to call out, and her understudy went on, which is something that happens in our show, which is just so funny and crazy, and we had that happen a couple times in previews with like actors going on in roles and at the last minute being thrown in, being like, so like that was really the big one. I will say, like, all things considered, like our tech process was very smooth. And our team, and if there was trouble, I will say, like, I didn't know about it because the team was so great at like handling those things without us knowing it, if those things even happened. So I will say, all things considered, this is a very smooth process, thankfully.
Your show brings a bit of Leonardo DiCaprio Inception, that movie maybe 20, 30 years ago, where it's like a world within a world within a world within a world. That's kind of,
how dare you say 20, 30 years ago? Oh my God.
Wasn't it like early 2000s when that movie came out? Like 2003?
I think it was 2010.
Oh, really?
I remember being a freshman in high school when it came out.
Oh, so you know the movie. Sometimes I bring this movie up and people, they have no idea what I'm talking about. You're actually spot on. I just Googled it. Inception 2010 film. All right, so 15 years ago, not 20 or 30. Excuse me.
Yeah, thank you. Give me those 5 years. That was the fastest Google search anyone has ever done.
Look at me, just the one-man show over here. Just
you tech wizard.
Whatever. I'm like the wizard behind the curtain.
Hey, how are you? I'm on an interview.
Oh, hi.
Hi, guest artist on the interview. Okay, so you were talking about that you opened last week. Tell us about what it's like to open your third show and some of the valleys that you might have went through starting out in New York City, or in the midst of like the career of stop start, things are great, things are not, like what did this opening mean to you, maybe in comparison to others? I'll change my question. What did this opening mean to you in comparison to others, and what was that journey like getting there?
That's such a good question. What's so interesting about this is you always hear your first job is a job. Your second job makes a career. And when I was doing Bad Cinderella, which was a dream, I loved every second of it. It was in this room, actually, in this theater. And it was a great group of people, and we were having a wonderful time, and it was such a fun show to do. I spent the whole time being so scared that I would never be on Broadway again. And it was like, what if this is it? What if this is my swan song? This is it. And it only happened for 2.5 months, and it's so scary, because I mean, that's just our job. Our career is like, no show is ever infinite. And so it's always like, will there be the next one? What is the next one? Is this the end? And so to now be here, it's kind of like now I've made it, in a way, which also is like weird for me to say, because I'm like, what if this is my last Broadway show? I'm never working. Like, that feeling never goes away. But like, to be here now, I'm like, okay, like you're here, like you have a career that you've worked so hard for. And it feels like in Bad Cindy, I feel like I was like, I have to prove myself. Like, do I really belong here? And Elf was a joyous process because it was Christmas and wonderful. And I knew about Smash during Elf. So I think Elf got to be a little bit like, yoo-hoo, I know I'm going to Smash,
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, woo, yay. And then like for now to walk in that first day of rehearsal and then to open the third Broadway show, I was like, I've done this twice before. I know what it's like to open a Broadway show. And for all three of my Broadway shows to be, well, original revival company for Elf, but like an original company is so special that it feels like, okay, I know how this process goes, and I know how to do this. And I feel like I am a professional, I understand how to do this, and I understand how I operate within this business and within this, within the process. And that's a really special feeling because, when I moved to New York, again, I was so scared of everything in my own shadow, but I knew that like, if I wanted to do this, I had to jump in. So I went to every single audition I could, and I just kept showing up, and I kept going, and I was working as a waiter, and I would like switch my shifts so I could go to callbacks, and everyone at that restaurant hated me because I was like, well, I'm going to be an actor. And they're like, yes, so are we. And I'm like, no, but I'm actually going to do it. Okay. I'm actually doing it.
Yeah.
I kept pushing, and I was booking regional gigs, and like things was trying to really pick up, and it was really exciting. And then I remember, you know what date I'm about to say? March 2020. I had a final callback for The Vacation Swing and Jagged Little Pill. And I was like, this is it. I'm about to book Broadway. This is going to be my Broadway debut. It is time. And I was in a studio going through the material. And then we were like, oh, is Broadway going to shut down? Broadway going to shut down? And sure enough, I look on Instagram and Broadway is shut down for the month. And I was like, so I'm guessing I don't have a final callback tomorrow. And I didn't. And so I went home and I was like, okay. And then so on and so forth, pandemic. For me, I was like, okay, well, it's very clear like theater's not coming back for a while. And the only reason I'm in New York City is to pursue theater. So until that's happening, I'm leaving. And so I had decided that I wanted to work in a national park. So I completely pivoted, and I did all this research, and eventually like found a friend of a friend who lived in Utah, lived in a van. So like we all just like went out to Utah and just kind of like figured it out. And I put everything in storage, and I had a backpack and a duffel bag, and I was hanging out west, going on road trips for like 6 weeks. We were just vibing. And then like everybody was like, okay, it's time to go our separate ways. I was like, okay, well, like theater's not back. Like I bought a one-way ticket. Like I want a van. So I bought a van, and then I lived in a van, and it was so fucking cool. So I was like, great, I have a van. I need a job. So I was looking, and I ended up getting a job in Yellowstone National Park as a preschool teacher to the Rangers kids. And so I moved to Yellowstone. And I lived there for 11 months teaching preschool to the most incredible children. And I lived there for 11 months, and I got I like met this man, and I had a mountain boyfriend who like taught me how to rock climb and ski, and I lived a completely different life. And it was thrilling. But also the whole time I was like, well, I have to go back eventually because like this is my dream. Like I want to be on Broadway and I want to perform. Like, it's who I am. And like in that job, I was performing for the children all the time. I was like every circle time is a performance opportunity. And I'd bring my guitar and we'd sing and I was writing a lot of music, and I wrote a one-man show, which I've done at 54 in Green Room and blah, blah, blah. And I'm working on adapting into something bigger now. But the whole time I had this dream in the back of my head, and I was like, I have to go eventually. And I remember like these late nights, I'd like go into the community center, this abandoned community center in Yellowstone, and just like dance on these rubber mats to be like, I have to stay in shape. I have to stay in shape, and I have to sing, and I have to keep dancing, and I have to like keep this art alive because I am coming back. And it was time to come back. And I remember I was driving back. I took about 3 months to come back, and my van, I stopped in State College, Pennsylvania, where I went to school, and my van was having a lot of problems. My van like kicked the bucket and died, like was not coming back to life. And I was like, because I was ready to keep it, which is a terrible decision. It was really a blessing in disguise because like,
yeah, that was like symbolism. Yeah,
exactly. It was like, you enjoyed this life and you made the most of it, but it is time to let it go. And so I took everything out of the van and I put it in a U-Haul, and I drove the last 200 miles in the city. And I remember seeing the skyline and just sobbing because I was like, what did I do this for? Like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what is happening? And I was sobbing, and it was my 25th birthday, actually. And I said, you know what? If I'm coming back into New York City to pursue this godforsaken dream, I'm going to do two things this year. I'm going to do my first solo backpack because I'm going to hold on to this part of myself that I have always wanted to pursue and now have made come alive. And I'm going to book Broadway. And so months passed, and I was working in Sacramento, and I had a week off between shows, and I was like, oh, I'm going to Yosemite and I'm going to do my first solo backpack. And right before I left, I got an audition for ALW Cinderella. So I was like, okay, well, I have to fly back for this. This is my last chance to book Broadway before I turn 26. So I went into the woods and I did my first solo backpack, and it was so intense. And I ended up like walking 22 miles in 2 days, and it was so thrilling and amazing and fantastic. And I came out of the woods and I flew to New York and I auditioned for Bad Cinderella. And then I flew back to start this next show in California. And then 8 days before I turned 26, I got the call.
Wow. I was getting Broadway. Check. There's this like repeating pattern with you of your resiliency or your drive to make something happen. One was the waiters at your restaurant that hated you, saying like we're actors too, and you kept in your story you're saying no, I'm really gonna do this.
I'm gonna do it. Okay.
I'm gonna do this. And then when you're returning back and your van dies and you're like, you know what, I'm going to solo backpack and I will book Broadway. And here you are.
I've seen such proof of manifestation in my life, because not only that, I manifested working in a national park. I said, I'm going to do that. And even though I went out with like no plans to actually do it set in stone, I was like, okay, I'm just going out west and I'm going to make it work. Like a month and a half later, I suddenly got a job in a national park and I made it happen. Yeah. You know,
it wasn't by accident. Like, how did you get the job? Like, I think people get manifestation twisted where they think it's just I say something out loud and then it manifests and then it's there, when really it's about putting yourself out there, doing what it takes, following the rock that you threw out to the universe, also running after the rock and seeing what is on that path to what it's going to lead you to. So please dive into that, because I know that you didn't just rub the magic lamp of manifestation and then you got to be on Broadway.
No. I'm so glad you said that, because I think often that can be the misconception. And the idea of manifestation for me is fixing that image in my mind and then letting every action I take come from that image.
Mm.
Because if you're operating from a negative self-image of like, the easiest example I use is like, there's a note you're scared to sing. And you're like, there's a difference between saying, I'm going to hit this note versus I'm not going to crack.
Mm.
Because when you say I'm not going
Yeah.
to crack, the image that you're creating in your head is cracking and then not doing that. But the image is cracking. So everything you're doing is coming from that image in your brain, whether you know it or not. Everything is stemming from that. And it puts you into a defensive space. It puts you into a protective space. But when you come from the image of, I'm going to hit this note, you're seeing the image of you hitting the note. So that everything you're doing is leading to you hitting the note. So when I say, I'm going to go work in a national park, I'm like, okay, well, I got to go out west. Like, I have to get out there first. Because if I'm not there, like, also, who's going to want to hire me? So I have to fly across the country to like go work at this park. I have no experience. Like, why would that happen? So like, you have to then take the steps to make it happen. You have to do the small things that add up. And same with I'm not going to be a waiter for the rest of my life. It's like, I'm not going to turn down an audition because I have a shift. Like, and I saw that so many times with people, and I'm not trying to throw tea or shade at waiters who want to be actors, or like, it's so important. And it's such a true pipeline. It happens. Like, it's a survival job, and it's a great survival job. You work at nights and you do the day, but there is a trap that I think people can fall into where you're making solid money and you don't want to give up the shift. And like, you have to take the risk. And so when I say I'm actually going to do this, and I see someone being like, I'm like, oh, they're like, oh, I need to go to one audition. It's been a while. I'm like, well, here's like 6 auditions that are coming up this week that you can go to. Like, oh, well, I don't know if I'm the right type, or I don't have my headshots printed out. Like, you have that ability. Print out the headshot. Go find a song. Like, those are easy, tangible things to do to prepare yourself to do this thing that you're truly just too scared to go do now. You have to do it, and you have to face the fear, because no one's going to hand it to you. No one is. You have to do something to show them that it's your time and that you're prepared and ready. I manifested my boyfriend of 2 years. I said, my New Year's resolution of 2020 going into 2023 was, I want a boyfriend. I was ready for a boyfriend in my life. And so, you know what I did? I got on Hinge and I went on fucking dates. And I was like, I'm going to go on all these bad dates. He's not just going to appear. And then I went on these fine dates, good dates, bad dates. And then I matched with this boy who I miraculously have so much history with. Like, we actually knew each other 10 years ago, but forgot about it. And now we're like, oh my God, that's you. And like, this man that 10 years ago, Joe, I manifested this boy. If I'm getting too deep dive, let me know.
No.
But 10 years ago, we were both accepted to Penn State. And my class met on a Google Hangout. And I remember this before Zoom. And I was like, who is this boy? He's so cute. He's so amazing. He can't go to Penn State because I will fall in love with him. And he will not love me. I'm a mess right now. I need to go to college. I was like, he was choosing between that and Princeton. I said, let him go to Princeton. We can meet 10 years down the line. I'll be on Broadway, and then we can fall in love. And 10 years later, he had gone to Princeton. We reconnected while I was in previews for Bad Cinderella. And then now we've been together for 2 years and are moving into our second apartment together in 2 weeks. Like, I manifested that shit.
Thank you for your TED Talk. That was amazing. That was
letting me
like,
ramble. Please. Thank you.
Standing ovation, everyone. Okay, well, I want to be respectful with your time. You're joining us backstage. Oh, you have time. Okay, amazing. So I love that you just gave us that insight on the whole manifestation thing, because I'm very passionate about it, and you are as well. And
yes,
thank you for sharing that. So you're giving us a lot of like the examples of like I set my mind to it, and then it happened. it came to fruition. Was there, besides, let's go back to COVID, and let's go back to the Jagged Little Pill callback that didn't happen, and all of that. And then you going west, and like, when were you, and you even in college, you said I was a mess. Like, I like to get real on the show to let people know, like, they're not alone in this, that like everyone they're seeing on Broadway didn't have this red carpet rolled out and they just kind of smoked a cigarette and strutted down the aisle and there they were. Like, yeah, let's do this. Maybe you've already said it, but like, what was your fork in the road where you almost quit or you almost said like, enough's enough?
Myself. I was the fork in the road.
Okay, good. Let's get into it. Yes.
I
Perfect.
have spent so much of my life, and I still am, and I've gotten better at it, but it's something I'm constantly working on. It's like believing in myself and trusting myself, which is something I am constantly looking externally for that trust. I'm like always trying to find the validation from other people so that I can then trust myself. But like, no one is going to trust you until you trust yourself. And I have faked it and it's worked well enough. But like, there has been so many moments in my life where I have held myself back from doing something that I know I could have done because I didn't believe that I could. And I have spent so much time apologizing for being where I am and wasting so much time and energy worrying about something that I said as being misconstrued, and that one tiny thing will ruin my career. Like, it is crazy psychopathic shit that I'm like always constantly having to remind myself of, like, you're allowed to make a mistake. You're allowed to make mistakes because also that's how we grow. It's how you grow from these mistakes and how you choose to move forward from them. Own them and acknowledge them and learn from them so you don't make them again. And then you're going to make new mistakes. And that's okay. That's what it is. But I've spent so much time and like so much worry in like so many different realms of my life, whether it be like at an opening party being like, did I just say something so annoying? Like, oh, did that person like me? Oh, do they think I'm crazy? Like, wasting time and then taking away from my own joy of being able to enjoy that moment and being there because I'm worried about a 3-second conversation I had with someone who I've decided is going to make or break the rest of my life. It makes no sense. And then I see it back in them. Like I see them see me like want to please and want to be good enough. And it's a turn off. And I see it happen. I see it happen in real time. And then I self-destruct because I'm like, oh no. And it's this crazy self-fulfilling prophecy that fills itself. And I wish I had the answers to fix it.
Yeah.
But I have tools now that I'm like, okay, like take a breath, relax. And now like I'm here. A tool for me is being like, Jonathan, you're in your 3rd original Broadway show. You're fine. Okay? Trust yourself. Trust you know what to do. Trust you know how to do your job. And that also trusting that you're crazy and who you are and this person that is too much is also what got you to be here. Because it is what makes you you. There's so many, I cannot tell you how many times in the last 6 months alone where I've been like, wow, I wish I was someone else. Which sucks.
Why is that?
Because I'm like, why am I so anxious all the time? Why am I so worried about what other people thinking? Everyone's having a great time. And I'm like in my head, like causing myself to have a bad time or like be miserable or like ruin wonderful experience or wonderful moments for myself because I'm choosing to have this anxiety. I'm like, man, I wish I was someone else who didn't do that. And that sucks because, you know, I really love me. I love who I am. I have worked so hard to be the person I want to be and to love the person who I am. And it's so frustrating to me in and of itself when I do that and that I'm doing that. And again, the cycle happens, and I have to be like, stop. Like, you're this crazy person who maybe just made someone go, but like also that person will then realize that that is just who you are. And that's beautiful, that you're this energetic, excited, joyous person. And that's who Jay Savage is. Because, God, and I hate Jay Savage. I had to change it because equity, like there was like some version of Jonathan Savage that was taken, so I had to change my name. And Jay was like the closest thing I could do to stay close to my name. The Jay is just, but whatever.
So you don't even like it?
No, I don't.
So wait, you just rather be just Jonathan? Like just
Jonathan Savage is my name. But there was like Johnny
my.
Savage or something, and you can't do any form of the name, so I couldn't be John.
See
or
the
Johnny
things you find out.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, he just Jay, but no, he wants to be just Jonathan.
And that's where the J came from, because I was like, I don't want to change my name. I've never wanted to change my name. I've always wanted that to be my name. And this is like the closest thing I could do to keep my name.
Yeah.
And I get stressed that it makes the Savage look fake, but it's not. But then it does lend itself to my very common nickname of J Sav. Which anyway, that's a whole different conversation. But being me is who makes me J Sav, and not who these other people who are already successful and already have a career. Like there's no point in wasting time trying to be them, because they already exist.
Yes, they do. That's right.
And we hear this all the time and over, and it's so hard to embody that and feel that and trust that you are enough and that you are different. And the fact that like you feel different is actually a good thing, because it makes you unique. It's scary and it's hard, and I'm still trying to deal with it, but that's the daily battle.
I love this. I'm sharing this episode with my whole member base on the app, because this has been a TED Talk, this whole thing. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you so much. Now I don't even know what, I mean, I guess on the streets you're going to be Jonathan to me, but I guess for the professionalism of the episode, I'll say thank you, Jay. I appreciate it.
It's so funny, because nowadays I start every rehearsal process with, because now I've tried different names and different rehearsal processes, and now everyone knows me by a different name. So now I prepare everyone that as we're like doing the meet and greet, I have about a 1-minute monologue explaining what you're going to call me, and you can call me whatever the hell you want, because I've given up.
Yeah. So you're John, Johnny, Jonathan, Jay Sav, Jay Savage,
Savage. You pick. And then it's fun, because it's like you get to pick what resonates with you.
I'm going to call you a savvy savage. I think that's hilarious. You're such a savvy savage.
Stop it.
All right. Well, Jay, Jonathan, Johnny, John, Sav, Jay Sav, thank you so much for being on Built for the Stage podcast.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome.
All right, everyone. Jay Savage. Make sure, if you haven't seen Smash yet, run, fly, take a car to New York City and go see the production of Smash. Make sure to check out Jay, John, Johnny, Jonathan, Jay, Sav, Savvy Savage on Instagram. That's JA Savage 5. I'm assuming the A is a middle name. Let's bring him back on. A is a middle name, yeah?
It is a middle name.
Anthony, Andrew?
So I'm a very open book. I will tell anyone anything about me. And if you ask anyone, they'll tell you. But the one thing I keep to myself is my middle name.
Oh, okay. There it is. Yeah. Wow.
You can go find it. I don't care. It's just like this thing I do for myself that I think is funny is I don't tell people my middle name. Hilarious.
Oh, another did you know moment.
Did you know?
Okay. Goodbye again. All right. So this name just keeps getting more mysterious. He really does need a 1-minute monologue when he introduces himself for new shows. But nonetheless, JA Savage 5 on the Insta. Go give a follow. Thanks again for listening, for following along to the episode. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Go on the gram at Built for the Stage. Check us out on the website, builtforstage.com. And we'll see you next time. Actors or athletes, train like one. Later.